course, my cat is getting in the way. All right. All right. It says we're live. So maybe we
We
are.
find Ghosty in the morning. Let's do this.
Let me check on. Make sure
Oh, are we
everything's
not live
cool.
yet? I thought you said we were
Oh no,
live.
no, I think we are. I just want to check to make sure.
Okay, because that's our official intro.
Oh yeah.
So we got
Yeah,
to
we
do
are.
this professional.
Okay, okay. Sorry. I'm not a
Except I'm
very
on the left and you're on the right. You got it backwards.
it you know what? It's
So now you have to do all the right wing talking points, and I have to pretend to be left wing. So we're gonna make it saucy.
we could try that.
So, anyways, I don't know if you can tell my voice is still a little borked, but it's good enough for a little 30-minute jam session. When it's back to 100%, we'll do like a long form video with lots of topics and back and forth. But I thought this would be a good way just to kind of like, test the waters and see what I'm feeling, what you're feeling.
Okay.
So what I had in mind was like just any rando topic, like current events, culture, politics, religion, philosophy, just whatever's floating our boats that day.
Yeah.
And obviously you're very left wing and I'm very right wing. So I think it would be kind of refreshing to break the echo chambers that we're usually a part of in panel spheres. And so but I think we're both pretty friendly. We're both cool and chill. Like I'm not going to attack you or insult you or anything
Right,
like that.
right.
So more than usual. I mean, I insult everybody all the time. I call all humans retards and stuff like that. So just don't take it personal. It's like it's
No. Yeah,
it,
I don't get offended, especially online. And
sweet.
I think my favorite conversations are with people I disagree with and can have a cordial like
Exactly.
debate with. So,
That's what I'm hoping to create is just a little, and we'll see how often maybe we'll do this like once a week, once a month, whatever, just whenever the spirit moves us. And so
yeah.
that's what I was shooting for.
All right,
Anyways,
cool.
we can just kind of like test the waters on our little pilot episode here.
Sure.
So either we'll just kind of take turns with topics, or we can just kind of like DM a topic to each other beforehand to see if there's something that really interests us. I just kind of figured like keeping up with current events. Like today's topic will probably be around like our new leader, glorious leader, Trump 2.0, and your thoughts and feelings on that, and then maybe we can review YouTube stuff. Like if you had any recent, debates or shows that you felt like you didn't really get a chance to, completely share all your thoughts, this would be the perfect opportunity to like elaborate on exactly what you thought and meant. And I can
Yeah.
kind of bounce back some ideas or something and see if maybe we're on the same page or not.
Yeah, I was actually looking back at some panels that we were on together.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one that I thought was particularly interesting. It was the Calvinist versus the animism. I don't I don't know the word
The
for
free
it.
will versus the non-free will dudes.
It was I think they were like both Christians, but I think
Yeah,
the one
yeah.
guy's name was Lucas, and then Andrew Wilson ended up coming on, and they talked about the curse words. Is it
Oh yeah, that was interesting.
yeah. And Torsha came on and we did end up talking about like free will and determinism and stuff like that. I thought that was an interesting conversation. Maybe we could review sometime when we
Sure.
have more time
And
or something.
and
But
that's what I was saying is like if something like that just is on your mind, then speak it and then we'll just do like a whole show about it. It doesn't have to be like a particular topic or flavor. It's just whatever you're thinking about at the moment is good enough for me. So
okay.
when you said Calvinist, usually the hot debate with Calvinists is free will. So they
Yeah.
also he may have gone into like curse words or whatever, but that's pretty much universal with all Christian groups. All Christian groups pretty much have like a taboo on like vulgar language or whatever, and so it just depends on who you ask that day. But I think you probably heard the spoilers when I was telling that dude that I had this debate with my grandma like decades ago,
Yeah, with the
And
crap.
yeah, she tried to convince me that crap was one of the words that God doesn't allow. And I was like, are you sure about that, Grandma? Because you're okay with us saying like poop or whatever, but we can't say crap, but it's the same word, it's just like a different, like slur for it or whatever. And so I don't think God really cares like what version of the word you use. I think it's more like the content of your message that he's concerned about.
Yeah,
So
how you're using the words and
right.
your intent, probably.
Like straight up cursing someone is kind of where the idea of the word curse words came from. So like if I told you, damn you, burn in hell or something like that, that's like a curse. And so obviously there's like no nice way to say that. And obviously God wouldn't approve of that sort of message. And so that's what the curse word is. But like saying hell itself doesn't like automatically invoke God's wrath, because you can say hell is a bad place. You don't want to go there. So see, I just said the word, but it's not the word that like, makes people evil or whatever. It's just how you use it. So, but anyways, I think he figured it out during that conversation.
Yeah. Um,
But
yeah,
I guess just to straw man or steel man that dude's view. I agree that as a general rule of thumb, if people are going to present themselves as holy and devout Christians, they probably shouldn't just be constantly dropping sailor talk, like f bombs and whatever and stuff like that, because that doesn't really help present yourself as this goodly honorable person. And so I see his point there, but
yeah.
I think we kind of live past that. That's more like my, boomer parents kind of generation type culture. Cause like during my generation, we used sailor talk so often that it just lost all meaning. Like it doesn't offend anyone anymore because, we just say it so often anyway. So
Yeah, I think with that Lucas guy, he was directly saying like you can't say curse words at all, but I think
yeah,
a valid criticism that I think a lot of people have of Andrew Wilson in particular is how, he's obviously Christian and the
is
way
he?
he uh, well, he claims to
Allegedly.
be, he
Allegedly.
definitely claims to be, and the way he approaches conversations with people doesn't come off as Christian like.
Right. Very
I think is that
aggressive and bullying and
yeah, non
mean spirited.
kind of like non-forgiving, very
Right.
I don't know, sometimes it's not even like he's not even always attacking their argument too. He does make superficial like attacks and insults and stuff like that. So I
Sure.
think that's a valid claim for people to make of him, but
And in his defense, I also claim to be a Christian, and like I said, I call people retard all the time and stuff like that. So it's more of a term of endearment. It's not like I'm trying to belittle you or say that you're incapable of understanding. It's more of like a provocation to like make people want to try harder to like think deeper and be more passionate about their arguments rather than just phoning it in and being like, meh, I don't care, I don't think, whatever, blah blah blah. And
yeah,
so
insults are pretty much like an exaggeration of what you're trying to express to that person. So like when you say fuck you, you don't mean that literally. You're expressing how angry you are or how
right.
annoyed you are or whatever that is. So,
And like in
um
my circles, I would talk that way to my friends and family as well. So like, it's like it just depends on your perception of culture. Again, my grandmother, if you said crap in her presence, she'd be like, oh, how dare you? She'd just be
yeah, I think a
shocked.
lot
And
of like I think a lot of that generation and even the like boomer generation, I don't know how old you are, but even the
I'm almost 50, so I'm Gen X.
okay. Yeah, so like the boomers and stuff, I think like I grew up being told that curse words were against God or sinful,
Right. And
essentially.
again, it's the mentality of it. It's like, it's hard to preach the gospel when you're just talking like a sailor every day because like, most people are just going to assume you're not a very good Christian, if you're just using vulgar language all the time.
And lots of people don't fully understand um their religion. Like they'll grow up as a Christian and say they're Christian, but maybe they don't go to church that often and they're kind of just told like curse words are sinful and they don't like think about it deeper than
Or they
that.
never bothered to open the book and read anything. They just
Right.
like learned their religion from TV and cartoons or something like that. And it's like,
Yeah. I think there's a
yeah.
lot of Christians and religious people in general who are kind of at that level. But
And that's why I'm here, is to be the thorn in their sides, because I end up debating and arguing more with like religious people than I do non-religious people, because non-religious people tend to be more like open-minded and logical and reasonable about stuff like that. But religious people, you have to like deprogram in order to have conversations with them, because some people are so stuck in the rut of thousands of years of tradition and whatever, that they're incapable of having like open-minded, new conversations about certain topics. They just, their funny hats told them to think one way, and that's the way they're just like programmed for life to think that way. And like I said, a lot of them had never even bothered to crack open the book and see if that's even correct or not. They just,
yeah.
that's just following orders. So anyways, we'll actually probably end up agreeing on a lot of things, because even though you're lefty and I'm righty, it's more about our political origins that differ so much. But I think you and I actually agree on a lot of stuff, like the way you approach ideas and the way you talk about things. That's why I felt like that would be good for us to have conversations, because we're very similar, we're just different. Like you come from a more probably progressive, I would call it woke, but you probably would take that as an insult. But
I don't.
um but I think everyone knows that right wing people use it as like a pejorative or whatever, like, oh, you're
Yeah.
just dumb and programmed. But
Yeah, yeah.
obviously woke people have good intentions with their beliefs. They think they're doing the right thing, they're helping humanity and all that sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
um that's the stuff we can debate and talk about or whatever. And so anyways, if you want to start off by reviewing old stuff, like I said, we can start off there. And then if we just want to fill some time, we can just, bring up the latest headlines and talk about that or whatever. So
Okay.
I'm,
Did you want to ask questions or did you want
yeah, I
how
think I think it would be good for us to kind of go through like a brief intro to each other, just so we
That's what
can.
I was thinking. I was gonna ask like maybe go through our kind of basic philosophies, religious
Right.
views, whatever political stances, how we got here kind of thing.
That would be a good start. So you already know I'm Gen X. I'm born and raised in America. My parents were boomers. I basically grew up in a half household, half religious, half atheist household. And so I basically self-taught myself religion, even though, my one parent, pushed me in one direction. They didn't force you. It wasn't like required. It was just like, highly recommended. And of course, the atheist parents didn't give a shit. So he was just like,
Yeah.
whatever, just figure out life and enjoy it. And so my religion is very personal. It's not, I don't, my religion isn't to, make family or friends happy or to fit into a group or anything like that. It's only my personal beliefs that I hold. And so I grew up Christian in a non-denom group, and which is a hilarious title, because every time someone claims to be non-denom, they're actually just another denomination, that claims to be non-denom. But the short version of it is we don't subscribe to any of the major mainstream sects, like Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, whatever. All those have a fancy group name or whatever. The name on our building is called the Churches of Christ, and so it's basically the restoration of the original church.
Is it
Is
a smaller church or a bigger church?
they're pretty small worldwide. They're only like in the millions, like 2 million, 3 million, something like that.
Okay. And
Um,
what can I just ask what age did you like discover your belief?
again, I was born and raised in the church,
Yeah, but
but
when did you like really
then I went
sink
through my
in?
high school, rebellion phase, where I denied everything, including family, religion, politics, everything. went through my own atheist agnostic journey to determine truth on my own without anyone's influence or persuasion. And so I ended up back into Christianity, going through all the religions. I basically went through the process of elimination. I studied all of the world's religions and seeing which one is the most valid and logical, reasonable. And through that process, I arrived back into Christianity. And so, um,
And how old were you when you, do you think, when
I
you like,
finished the journey around by early college, mid college, I was pretty much back to full Christianity.
okay.
I never really went like butthurt anti-theist, because sometimes atheists just like hate God, and they were usually like you know assaulted by someone in the church or whatever, and then they just like reject religion altogether for the rest of their life. I didn't go through any of those experiences, but I also just personally rejected religion because I didn't accept it, that it was just being fed to me by family and friends or whatever.
Well, I think
And
that's good.
so
I think that's a good
um
thing.
I thought that was the most objective way to approach the topic of religion, because again, if you allow feelings or emotions or like peer pressure or family pressure to like sway you in one direction or the other, I feel like that's not being objective. Like, you're not actually determining what is true, you're just determining what's convenient for your personal lifestyle or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's good for um people to go through different phases of religious beliefs and understandings. Because if you don't, then are you really even kind of asking the questions? Are you even thinking about it? Are you just taking it for granted? Which I don't know, it just doesn't seem as meaningful. It's kind of like what's the
Just going
purpose
through
of
the
it?
motions kind of lifestyle.
Yeah. If you don't want to utilize it or even understand the religion, it's just kind of granted to you. And like that's kind of, I don't know, I feel like with Christianity, one thing that I definitely rejected about it was the the use of fear to like scare you into it because you're so scared of going to hell if you don't believe in it, or if you don't accept Christ and stuff. Like that was really scary for me when I first started being like, I don't think I'm Christian. I don't think I believe in this. And it took a while to get over that.
Yeah, the truth and reality definitely has unpleasant qualities to it, and so that's again what I've figured out in my own personal journey was I understand exactly what you're saying. Like, you shouldn't like introduce people to Christianity by saying you're going to hell and here's how you can avoid hell. Like, that's not a good
Yeah.
starter conversation. It's also, I don't think it's also not beneficial to try and sway too far in the other direction where you basically tell people, oh, there's no hell. God wouldn't ever allow bad things to happen. Everything's just kittens and puppies and fairies and rainbows. And so I think that's kind of the side effect of a big culture shock we went through during my generation from Gen X to millennials. They went through this like helicopter parent phase where they were basically like giving all the children trophies and stuff like that, for participation and whatnot, because they basically didn't want any negative input in children's lives whatsoever. Never telling children no or that you failed or anything like that.
I mean,
And I think,
I'm a millennial, and I we definitely didn't have participation trophies.
well, they did
I
in my neck of the woods. I don't know, maybe your area was more based or something, but like um most of the regions I frequented, it was pretty commonplace. Like, no one really debated it. It was, rampant everywhere. But
okay.
it was just the sign of the times. It was changing from, it was mostly brought on by Gen X because they were trying to overcompensate for their neglectful parents. Boomers were like
Yeah.
the most neglectful parents ever. They didn't care what you did. They didn't know where you were, what you were doing. They would
And
just
then it
check in
went
with
too
you like every
far.
10 years or so and be like, are you still alive? Great. Cool. And so then when Gen X became parents, we were like constantly watching our children, like
Too far
hovering
the
over
other
them.
way. Like, oh,
Right,
I don't
right.
want to. I wasn't cared for as a child. by my parents, so I want to
So
be extra
so
careful
I'm going to
over
be
my
the
kids.
perfect parent and watch my
Yeah.
child 24/7 and never allow them to fail or make mistakes or anything like that, So
Yeah.
so anyways, long story short, here we are. And so anyways, that's, again, you have to kind of roll with culture, as obviously it affects your philosophy and your way of looking at life and dealing with stuff. Um so anyways, after I returned to religion, then I was more serious about it, because before I was just kind of like, just doing the good things to avoid punishment type of mentality. But now it's more like I actually believe it and understand it and apply it, and think that, we should help other people and all that jazz. So anyways, I'll try not to get too preachy on these shows. Like I said, if you want to bring up religion, we can talk about it, but I'm not going to like just constantly hammer it on you or anything like that. So
No, you're fine. I really enjoy the conversation of religion.
sweet.
I thought that would be a probably like a topic that would come up here and there.
Well, that's one component of my main message, which you probably heard by now. I'm a hardcore conservatarian. So um, what that means is there's three guiding principles to my life: morality, which obviously is from Christianity; um, capitalism, which is kind of weird because most people pick politics first before they go into economics, but I think it's kind of the cart before the horse situation, where like whatever economics you choose in life will completely determine the outcome of your life, your whole lifestyle, because socialism and capitalism are completely different paths that lead to completely different results. And so um
Yeah,
the things
economics is something I am not very well versed in for sure.
all you need to know is that capitalism is private ownership and
I
socialism
mean, like
is state
I know
ownership.
what they like are in general, but I don't really know like the history of them, the overall like different effects and how the economy works like downstream of other things and shit like
I
that.
didn't either, and so getting into my political journey, um, all the way up until college, I didn't even care or know about anything in politics. I didn't even want to know about politics because I just thought it was all stupid and a waste of time.
Yeah.
But by default, I kind of felt like I was born and raised Republican, like that was supposed to be the right answer, even though I had no idea what a Republican was or what a Democrat is or what they believe and all that stuff. And so I didn't care. I didn't vote. I didn't really follow politics. I'd never read the news. I didn't care, like who's president and what they're doing or anything like that. But then as you get older and you start paying taxes, all of a sudden you start getting more interested in politics. You're like, why am I paying all this money to this government that I don't ever interact with or care about or talk to? And so by force, I learned more than I wanted to know about politics. And the more I got into politics, the more angry I got about it, was because I kept seeing like how like the quality of our lives were just basically getting worse over time. And I know that sounds like such a, first world problem, like spoiled rich people, like, oh, my caviar is starting to dry out or something like that, but it's like, even in the greatest nation in the world, like ours, the most wealthy or whatever, we can still have problems. You can see the quality of our lives like go
What
down the toilet really fast.
what ways do you think we are getting worse?
So for example, in my own lifetime, by the way, I saw the complete death of the middle class. And so as a Gen Xer, I was programmed to believe by my boomer parents that if you go to college and get a degree, you're guaranteed a wealthy, successful lifestyle. Like you're just, it's cruise control after that. Like you don't even
Yeah.
have to try. And not only was that not true, even if it was like accidentally true and I got really lucky and, won the career lottery and found the one job that actually has good and intelligent people running the place, um, there still was like a societal collapse of the economic system that we thought we were a part of. We're all taught that, rags to riches, like if you want to become rich, all you got to do is go out there and work hard. And, it's the American dream. And, everyone has a fair opportunity and blah, 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 all that bullshit. So what happened
So
in
do you
reality?
not believe in that? Do you not
Oh, I
believe?
know for a fact it's not true. In fact, I know that the people that still subscribe to that belief are so delusional at this point that they're like, they just have to keep telling themselves, yeah, it's real. There's totally a middle class and it's still fair and everything like that. So what's really happening is you basically have the extremes. You have extremely poor people and extremely rich people, and that's like your only two choices. Either you get in with the oligarchs, you get in it with the top brass, the executives, all the crony capitalists, and all the socialist fascists running the government and stuff like that, and then you will be rich. Or you work for them and you will be poor your entire life because they purposely keep you in lower income, ranges of life. Because if there was a middle class, you would easily see that. You would see like affordable homes, you'd see like no one complaining about the quality of life. Like everyone would be like, oh, life is so great, it's everything's so fair, jobs pay well, employers are fair and honest, and they would never throw you under the bus or cheat you out of overtime, or all kinds of little details that happen in real life. But anyways, like I said, just my own personal experiences, and I've been all over the area. I've been East Coast, North, South, West Coast. I've been foreign and local, and so
I think a factor into that too. Like I get what you're saying and I don't doubt it, but I also think a big factor into kind of like the diminishing of the middle class is our lifestyles, our average lifestyles in the US have upgraded so much. Like in order to like have a job, you need a phone, you need a computer, now you need to pay for
keeping up
internet.
with the Kardashians and such. I know what you're going with.
Yeah, there's so many more like luxuries that we are used to and
Hmm.
kind of take for granted, and that's all a part of our basic like bills
That's
now and stuff. So I
that
think that
sounds
might be a
reasonable,
factor.
but then you again just look at like bell curves and stuff like that. So the way a bell curve distribution works is like most of the population should be middle class. Very little percentages should be super poor or super rich. That's normally what happens in life. If it doesn't happen that way in life, that means someone is interfering with it, like they're actually rigging the system to make it have unnatural results. And
Isn't that
so,
kind of like every system though? I feel like for the
oh yeah, some
majority
some
of human history, it's probably mostly been like super wealthy people and then kind of like
100%. That's why we know. That's why we instantly recognize it, because we know what we're looking for. Like we have so many examples of where it was just blatantly obvious. And see, there's the key. In America, it's not blatantly obvious yet. We're shifting from the normal, natural distribution of the middle class to the extremes that we're always pretending that we're fighting against. Like we
and
always go
they
ahead.
really get you with the land of the free when
Mhm.
when that's installed in you, like instilled in you growing up.
Home of the brave.
You're like, we're the freest country, and you think you have all these freedoms, but you grow up and you realize like, maybe it's not as free as they told us it was. But
And
when you
freedom
when
comes
you
with a
convince
price.
people they're free when they're actually not, that's like
Mhm.
right where you want them.
Oh yeah, see, there's a whole nother tangent we can go off on.
Yeah.
Is like the idea of liberty and freedom in America. Like, see, there's another thing. As a Gen X, I was programmed to believe that like we are the freest people in the world. Like, we
Hmm.
have all the freedoms, and there's no excuse for why you're failing, because it's you are the captain of your own destiny. So it's only your fault. And so again, like I said, I have real world results that beg to differ. And so it's not so much a free and fair system as much as it is a rigged system for certain parties. And I already covered them. Like the deep state oligarchs are basically who control the entire country, whether it's government on one side or it's mega corporations on the other. And I always use the term crony in that description because I am a capitalist. I will vehemently defend capitalism
Mhm.
to the death, because again, that's the most important element. But I don't ever fall into the trap of like sounding like a laissez-faire capitalist, which basically means like there are no rules in life. The only thing that matters is profit. Like that's why you'll hear a lot of lefty people say like, ew, these people are so greedy and disgusting. All they care about
Yeah.
is money and stuff like that. But meanwhile, in reality, capitalism is the most moral, fair choice you have in life, because
Merit based.
either you own your company or your land or your labor or your fruit and your profit, or someone else owns it. And throughout history, as you pointed out, we're all familiar with like the feudal system or whatever, like where the king owns everything and you're just a slave in his kingdom, and you don't get to own your land, you don't get to own your profit or anything. Like you farm to provide food for the king, and then he just leaves you a little crumbs so that you survive enough to keep feeding him. But in America, we're taught, oh no, 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 we don't have kings here. We just have a president that makes sure all our freedoms are maintained, and you're free to go and own and do anything you want, which is a complete lie. Because first of all, like I said, as soon as you start paying taxes, you figure out real quick you're not free from anything. If anything, like those evil kings of history, where a tax collector would show up at your door and say, "Give me half of all your gold." You'd say like, "Oh, this is such an evil king. He's like the worst, most demon king I've ever heard of." Well, that's the king we have today. Right now, our king president has his tax collector show up at our house and takes half of your shit, and there's like, well, it's democracy, so you voted for this, so you have no one to blame but yourself. And see, they just keep lying to you with layers and layers of lies. They tell you voted for 50% taxes, so it's your fault, because you wanted all this freedom, so now you got to pay for it or something.
Yeah,
So
and how the taxes are spent as well. It's you get
I,
taxed on income, you get taxed on what you buy, you get taxed on what you like, you get taxed on
what you own,
absolutely,
what you
yeah,
sell,
what
what
you
you
invest
transact,
or some, maybe not what you invest, but like literally every transaction is
definitely what you
taxed.
invest. Everything you
It,
invest, it gets taxed.
yeah,
So
yeah.
even when you
Oh,
make
so true,
profit
yeah.
from investments, they tax that.
Yeah.
And they double dip all the time, and they don't care at all. Like they will tax the money you've already been taxed on again to take
Tax your
more of it.
taxes.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
bad.
ridiculous. So that's what led me down the path of libertarian. So like I said, I was born and raised Republican because I thought that was the right answer. And then I actually learned about politics, and I was like, this is absolutely disgusting. I would never vote for any of these people. And so I discovered this dude called Ron Paul. You may have heard of him. So way back in the day, he's really old, but he doesn't really do anything
Was he a
anymore.
politician?
Yeah, he ran for president.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of him, yeah.
He ran as a libertarian
Okay.
a while back in my day. But anyways, his son Rand Paul is still a senator or whatever in Congress. You probably heard of him as well once or twice in your life. But anyways, um, so Ron Paul was like the greatest thing to ever happen to American politics, and it also exposed what a fraud American politics is. Because I go around preaching to everyone that I talk to that you always hear like on MTV, like rock the vote, and Obama's out there vote, and gotta get the youth out there and vote, and your vote matters, and we hope for change and all that stuff. So your vote absolutely does not matter. They don't care in the slightest who you vote for. They don't care if you got like 100% anonymous or not
Yeah.
unanimous vote for one person, because the electoral college will just pick whoever they want anyway, regardless of whoever won the popular vote.
Yeah, but it's like next to never happened where they
It,
haven't gone with the popular vote.
but you see how you can't deny it. All you can say is they would probably never do that. But
Well, historically they haven't. I think there's been a couple states, like a
well, they
handful of
never
times.
needed to, because when you rig the voting system so that it's a uniparty and you're voting for Tweedledum or Tweedledummer, they
Yeah.
don't care which one you pick, because they already picked both of them for you. So they already have plans for who is allowed to win the
So what
race. And
about like
so,
local elections though? Are you can
do they
does your
matter?
vote does your
When's
vote
the last
matter?
time? When's the last time a mayor did something that affected your life?
Our new mayor made a couple of big changes. She was just elected. It hasn't like personally affected my life, but
Exactly.
I mean within
That's
the city there are some changes though. But
so we live in a backwards world. Again, the lies we are taught as children was that when we founded America, we were all about small local governments because we were trying to get away from big oppressive centralized governments like the
mhm.
king or the
Yeah.
monarchy or whatever. And so the whole point of our system was to empower your local leaders who actually can affect change in your life, and who you can keep check on, to make sure they're not getting corrupt or, doing shenanigans or whatever. And then the state is just like the middleman who doesn't really matter because you never see that guy and he doesn't do anything in your life anyway. And then there really shouldn't have been like a real federal government. By the way, that was one of the big contentions during the Civil War. Everyone thinks the Civil War was just about slavery. They thought that was the only reason why we had a civil war.
Yeah, no, the
And
South was literally succeeding. Is that the word? From
seceding. and
seceding, yeah, from the country,
And
right?
one of their main objections that the South was fighting against was a centralized federal government. And so if that Civil War happened today, I would be fighting on the South, because I am completely against a centralized federal government. Now, hopefully, we would have resolved the racial issue by now. So, like I said, if you take slavery out of the Civil War, suddenly it becomes more clear what they were actually fighting about. So,
I mean, how would we deal with like foreign affairs or a
the same way
military?
we dealt with foreign affairs before we had the centralized federal government, well-regulated militias will defend their lands with their life.
Yeah, but
You will not take their land from them.
it's a different world. We do trading, we have
Why do
worldwide
you need the
trading.
government to do your trading for you? Why can't you do your trading?
I mean, I don't have like a boat. I don't have
You
the
don't have the ability to go to your mailbox and mail a letter to a foreign business and have them send you some goods.
I mean, I don't think that's how
Have
the
you
trade
ordered
industry
anything
works,
on
but
Amazon before?
yeah, of course.
Sometimes those packages get shipped directly from foreign countries like China or Vietnam
Hmm.
or India or whatever. So you're already trading internationally completely on your own without the need of a federal government whatsoever.
Yeah, but I mean like large manufacturers and
Why
um
do you need someone else to take your money and
I
to
mean
inefficiently trade it?
if they're going to buy, I mean, I'm gonna sell to whoever's buying, right?
Have you ever heard the phrase return on investment, ROI?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I were to check your books and see how much money you've given to the government versus how much money and profit the government made for you and returned back to you for all of your hard-earned work, what do you think that number would look like? Would it be like 10% return, 100% return, 1,000%, 0%, negative 200%? What do you think it would be?
Do I get more money back in taxes than I pay for
No,
doing
like
it? Or like
let's say you're a good citizen and you pay your taxes, and so the federal government gladly accepts the money that they take against your will, and so let's say you made $40,000 last year, and you paid half of it to the government. $20,000 went directly to the government's pocket. Okay, so now they promise you, oh, we're going to do all this trading and business and international blah 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 blah, and you're like, okay, that's great. So what does that mean? How much money do I get back from that? Like my $20,000 investment, how much do I get back from that? Do I get $5,000 back, $10,000 back, zero
I
back?
I think I understand what you mean. Like
Yeah.
it's not the federal government that's doing the trading, it's the
Well, they
individual.
are. They are now, and no one even cares about that. And see, that's how far gone we are. Like citizens don't even care where our money goes. Like let me give you a perfect example, and this is one that you'll love as a lefty. Um, so you hate it when like corporations and the government get in bed together, right? And they're like doing secret dealings behind the tables, and behind
That's
the closed doors.
probably not good. Yeah, I'm usually
Okay.
against like lobbying and stuff.
So if you were to look right now, how much of your tax dollars are going to a private organization called Tesla or SpaceX or whatever?
Hmm.
Because some crony capitalist got in bed with a politician and is now using his political power to make profit directly from the government, which is you. You are paying this man's investments. So again, you sent $20,000 to the government, and Mr. Trump decided to give some of that money to his buddy Elon to help his business grow. Now,
Hmm.
what are you going to get on the return on that investment? Are you going to get a little sticker that says thanks for donating, or you're going to get a free Tesla? Are you going to get a free trip to Mars on a SpaceX rocket ship? Like what are you getting out of that deal?
Yeah, I have no idea. Probably
You're getting
nothing.
zero. You'll never see a penny of that ever again. It's gone forever. And so this happens all the time. And this would make our founding fathers like spin in their graves. They'd be like, "Oh my goodness, this is like the opposite of what the country we founded. This is what we were trying to get away from, because we came from Europe where we had kings that were, you know, working with their slimy lords, who owned all the businesses and were making all the people slaves and taking all their money and just spending it on gold-plated thrones and shit like that. And that's exactly what they're doing now.
I
And
mean,
no
I
one
think
has a problem with it.
I think there would have to be. I agree that the federal government level should have minimum involvement. But I feel like there would have to be at least some type of representative for the entire nation. Otherwise, it's kind of just like a bunch of little mini countries.
Why can't you have a diplomat or something that represents your country, and you pay his salary like $50,000 a year for his salary just
Well,
to go represent you?
that's what I'm kind of saying. Somebody who is in charge
Okay, do
of
you
kind of
want to
all of
guess
that,
how
but
much
they're
we currently pay our diplomats just to go, which is the president, by the way. He's kind of like
like
our head honcho.
200K a year or something.
That's just indirect salary. That doesn't count all the pensions and free healthcare and
Yeah,
free housing and all. There's so much stuff they get for it.
yeah,
Plus, you already know how politics works. That's
yeah.
the official salary they make is just the tip of the iceberg of all the crony bullshit they engage in, all the insider trading that you hear about every single politician getting in on, because of course they're not going to officially record their profits from that, because if you knew how much these people were making, you'd just be like, riot, burn it down.
That's
So
why I don't even know if there ever could truly be a totally uncorrupt government. I feel like the
sure,
people running things are always going to have their self-interest.
I've got an idea for you.
They can
um
try to pretend like, they love the country, they love the people, and that might be part of it, but I feel like ultimately everybody's going to work together for themselves.
what if instead of kings, we decided to use judges instead to be our governors per se? And these judges are just like your local judges. For example, you know how you have to like vote for your judge in order for him to earn his office.
Yeah.
And he has to come visit your home and plead for your vote and be like, please vote for me. I'm an honest, good person, hardworking.
Nobody knows them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I would suggest a system like that would be way less corruptible than the current system that we're currently using. And again, people don't even give it a thought. Like, they don't think there's an option. They think that our only choice is to have this $1 trillion bloated government that doesn't give a shit about you whatsoever. They don't care about you, your lifestyle, whether or not you're starving to death, whether or not you have health care, whether or not you can afford your housing. They don't care about any of that shit. All they care about is kissing babies and appearing on the stage, and everybody's hooting and hollering, oh, hope and change, you're gonna save us,
Yeah.
because I voted for you. You're the king that's gonna totally care about me and make my
Must be a
life better.
major ego boost
Yeah.
to be like a US president. Yeah. Yeah,
And so
a lower
again,
salary, less influence. I don't know.
and you already know, even your governor has no idea who you are. Doesn't care about your lifestyle or how well you're doing, anything like that. And even your mayor, again, is so far removed from you, the citizen, that you know that this whole system has failed. There's not one part of the system that works. It's just complete corruption. It's complete oligarchs. It's, the rich enslaving the poor. There is no middle class. And so that's where I come from politically.
I don't know if it's complete. I know, like, I would say maybe every aspect of the government has corruption within it, but I do think there are things in our government that lots of people take for granted that they don't realize everything that's like actually going on behind the scenes that does
Is
benefit
that a good
us.
thing?
Well, I mean, like, I don't know, like a lot of people are trying to get rid of these three-letter word agencies or whatever, right? Like the
Yeah, yeah. See,
EPA, the FDA, but like they don't realize all that actually goes into what makes the food that you buy safe. Like you just take it for granted that this food is going to be safe to eat. And like you don't realize actually all the stuff going on behind the scenes that like goes into that process to make
so
food.
before government showed up, and when mom and pops had to run their own farms and run their own restaurants and everything like that, was the food safe or was everyone dying?
Well, it wasn't like mass produced. And if we could go back to localized farms, which I feel like makes so much more sense,
Is way healthier, is way better for the economy, and makes
it's better
much
for the
more thriving for the
environment,
citizens, and
it's
it's
better
better
for
for the
the
environment.
animals, it's better for people, it's healthier. Yeah, I have this is something I've been talking about for a while, but I don't know, every time I say this, people say it's just like unrealistic. It would cost farmers more money because farms are cheaper when you do it in masses versus like small localized farms. So that's usually the argument and pushback I get.
And so uh, eventually I'm going to convert you to the dark side, because I know you're coming from the you trust the government now, but the more we talk about it, you're going to realize there is nothing to trust about the government. But I understand exactly what you're saying. You feel like without the government, we wouldn't have roads and hospitals and healthcare and food safety and nuclear weapons to protect us from the bad guys out there and
Mm.
all that sort of stuff. And the truth is, not only would we have all those things, we would have better versions of all those things. I'm a civil engineer by trade. That was my career for my life.
Okay.
I've designed entire cities, counties, statewide projects, all that sort of stuff.
I went to school
Multi-million
for
dollar.
landscape architecture for a while, but I didn't graduate.
I've worked with lots of landscape architects, but the civil engineers are the ones that have to do all the boring math and stuff, and
Oh
so
yeah, no,
we're
I
the
had to take
nerds
an
that,
engineering class for that, and
and those suck, don't they?
it was
I had to take
hard,
all of
yeah.
them.
Doing all the landscaping, the grounding, and yeah, all that shit.
So I know firsthand exactly how our government works, like how the private sector versus the public sector works. So I know where your tax dollars go, how efficiently they're spent, and all that sort of jazz. And so there is no competition between the private sector and the public sector. The only reason why everyone talks so big about the public sector is because they have like $1 trillion budgets, whereas on planet reality, private companies have to work in reasonable budgets. Like their company only makes $1 million a year, so they can only spend $1 million on projects.
So
Whereas
when you say
go ahead,
public and private, do you mean by public, do
government.
you mean like government owned
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah, like the
Okay.
government.
And then
Like when the
private is
government builds
citizens.
roads and buildings and
Okay.
employs people. So and the flip side of that coin is the government has no budget. They'll just spend money they haven't even invented yet. And so that's why you always hear about governments like just printing money out of thin air and stuff like that. Like currently, our federal government is so deep in debt that the interest on our debt is like more than small countries' entire budgets. Like we're paying like trillions of dollars in interest on the debt that our country has printed itself into. out of thin air. And so this is the complete disconnect with reality. And see, a lot of people don't understand this, and they're just like, oh, but the government will always be there to protect us and take care of us. And so they don't care about you at all. The second the funding gets cut off, you're gone. You know, they'll throw your body on the fire to keep themselves warm, you know. So they're not like, you know, they're not going to make cuts to make sure your life is comfortable and safe or whatever. And so um, but just the core concept itself, like I said, people don't understand that not only would we still have roads and hospitals and safe food and, you know, clean environments and stuff like that, we would have more better quality roads and more safe foods and better, you know, thriving citizens and more affordable homes and all these wonderful things. That comes from the private sector. That's what capitalism is. That's the only way, that's the only origin of production. The only thing the government produces is theft. It steals money from the citizens and then spends more than it even stole from you.
So what is the difference though? Because isn't it all just profit?
The difference is reality. So, like, the reason why, you know, the private sector celebrates profit so much is because through your blood, sweat, and tears, you barely manage to overcome nature and win the game. You know, you worked so hard to grow all those crops so that you would have food, so that you would live and you don't die. The government doesn't produce anything. They don't farm. They don't, you know, make anything. They don't, you know, they
They
don't
just
produce anything.
order
They
things.
just they
Yeah.
just take money from citizens and then spend it on whatever random bullshit you allow them to, whether it's, you know, bombing foreigners or, you know, shady, you know, oil rigging businesses or whatever, just all kinds of shady stuff that you don't even want to know about. But meanwhile, everybody's like, oh, well, we trust the government. They're keeping our interest in their hearts and minds. So, you know, and that's what kind of, you know, led me to the severe split down the left right wing path, because the left wing tend to be more trusting in their government, and they hope for the best, and they think, well, you know, there's always a few bad apples in the government, but most of the government
I feel
is
like it
nice,
used to
good
be the
people.
opposite though, right? I feel like the liberals used to be the conspiracy theorists who were like, "Don't trust the government, man," and
It
the
has
right.
shifted a lot
I
over
think
the
it,
years.
yeah, I think it's switched over the past like two
The word
decades or
liberal
so.
has no meaning whatsoever anymore in modern times, because you'll hear people say, oh, you're a classic liberal, which is the actual definition of the word, because the modern use of the word has lost meaning altogether. It doesn't even mean what it originally meant, which, like you just said, it was the skepticism in the powers that be, you know, the bourgeoisie or whatever, however y'all like to phrase it,
Hmm.
the monarchs, you know, the kings, the lords, the aristocracy, all of the obvious corruption was, you know, coming from the people who had the power and the wealth. And so to be liberal was to, you know, always be, you know, doubting those people or trying to revolt against them and, you know, bring the power back to the people, which is how they get you into the left wing. This is how they get you every time. So the way they brainwash you away from reality is all the wonderful things I told you about capitalism will be erased in like one idea. They'll say, but what about the people, the workers' rights? Don't you care about workers' rights? Shouldn't we form unions to fight against these corrupt mega corporations and all their greedy capitalists? And so that's what starts you down the path of, like, you know, communism and socialism and all that
So
sort of
you're
stuff.
against unions?
Completely.
Interesting. My
Because
dad was a construction worker and he was in a union and he loved it. So I don't
I
really
I
know
used
much
to work
about
for
them,
the
but
government and I was forced to be in a union. I didn't have a choice. In order to
yeah,
accept the job, I had to join the union.
yeah.
And so
Don't
I
most
learned
workers
all
like
about unions working for
don't
that.
don't they usually benefit workers though?
When I was laid off, it benefited me zero. I got zero benefits from being laid off because I was deemed too high income, because engineers make too much money. So you can definitely afford to fire engineers, but you know, you got to keep those janitors and clerks employed because they're nice and cheap labor. So anyways,
Okay.
the more you get into the system, the more you'll learn about how it actually works. And so the way they sell it to you is they make it sound like they're like freedom fighters, and they're on the side of the little people. They're trying to fight against
Yeah.
the big boss hogs, the big fat pig capitalists who only care about profit and don't care about human lives or anything like that.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the socialists are the most heartless, demon, evil people you'll ever meet in your entire life. And if you don't believe me, just crack open a history book and look at who has caused the most death in human history. And you'll quickly learn what party they belong to.
Well, I mean, there's also lots of economies and nations that have claimed to be a certain type of kind of like they've claimed to be democratic or socialist or
Yeah,
whatever when
the
they're
Democratic Republic of China, for example, who
yeah,
everyone knows is
I think
communist.
North Korea is like a
The Democratic Republic of North
something
Korea.
yeah, whatever. And it's obviously not. So,
They always use the title like the People's Republic of such and such,
yeah, they
and so
try
that it sounds very
sell it
democratic.
nice.
And so that's how they get you. That's how they convince you that you need to vote Democrat for more feelings and more puppies and kittens, because don't you care about the babies and the puppies and kittens? So it's like,
The poor people and the
yeah, the
sick
poor people.
people and yeah, of
And
course.
meanwhile, the Democrats, the socialists, and the authoritarians are the ones that oppress the poor people the most. If anything, the capitalists at least give you the option to get out of poverty. And that's where, like I said, early on, I was sold the lie that America is still that today. Like they still sell that lie that if you just work hard, you can get yourself out of poverty and become
Mhm.
rich, which is not really true. I mean, it's kind of true because we're going through that transition from full fascism into, something that kind of resembles the old America where, you had some rights and some ownership. But like I said,
Full
once the
fascism? Don't you think that's a little dramatic?
that word has meaning, and I'm not playing the Nazi card. Fascism is when the government, the socialist authoritarian government, colludes with the crony capitalists. That's what fascism is.
Yeah, I mean, but we don't even have like socialized healthcare or anything like that. Like everything.
We still have Obamacare, and they were arguing full health care for all citizens, just like China, by the way. China
Yeah.
has full health care for all citizens.
Yeah, I think most
What
countries
could go
do.
wrong with that system? By the way, have you ever been in a Chinese hospital?
No, only country I've been to is Canada besides America.
If you've ever played video games, there's this video game called Silent Hill. It's about this guy who like goes through this journey into the demon world or whatever. It's basically hell. You like go down into hell and you have to fight demons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The last time I was in a Chinese hospital, I thought I was in the video game Silent Hill because it looks like that kind of dystopian
Is that the one where
hell
like the demons
dungeon.
took over Earth and you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to okay,
basically.
yeah.
So they're again, see, they always promise you everything. They promise everything's going to be free healthcare, free education, free. Everything's free. They never bother to answer the question. There's always one guy in the crowd that's like, who's paying for all this free stuff? And so
Yeah.
they never answer that question, because if they did, then they would lose the entire audience, because again, Ghosty is paying for all this. She gave her half her income to the government, and so that's where all the free shit comes from.
This is why I kind of have like a dilemma with healthcare because and honestly it's something I haven't really looked into. I know, like most of Europe, most of the world has free healthcare, but also I know that we have a really good healthcare system and lots of people from Europe come to the US for their healthcare. For our healthcare.
Because you get what you pay for.
Yeah, exactly. So
Also, another
I
thing
don't
they
have a
always forget,
strong opinion about this because I'm not too
another
wise
detail
into
they
it.
always leave out in those conversations is they say, oh yeah, Europe and Canada and all these wonderful places have free healthcare, and they forget to mention what their tax rate is in those countries, because they have these things called like VAT, value added taxes and stuff like that. And in addition to like income tax and property tax and sales tax, they have all the taxes we have and more.
Yeah,
They have an
Canada.
effective tax rate of like 60 to 70% in most
I went to
European countries.
Canada and I I got a receipt. I went to dinner and I got a receipt and there were like four different types of taxes listed on
Yep,
there. And I didn't like calculate the percentage to see if it was like more than here, but I feel like
it
it
is.
was. It was a long time ago,
That's
so.
that's where they get their free
But I
shit from.
remember being like, "What? Why are there so many taxes on this receipt?"
There's your free shit. There's your free healthcare. There's your free education.
Yeah.
It's all free. All you gotta do is pay for more than the private sector would charge you. Because
I
in government, you have to pay for all the bureaucrats' salaries in addition to the service they're providing you. Where in the private market, you're not giving the capitalist a tip for providing you the hamburger. You just pay for the hamburger and then you go
yeah.
on your way. So
Yeah.
that's the difference.
And they're always going to optimize, their salaries and try to give back to the people in the cheapest way possible. So,
And have you ever heard of anyone getting fired from a government job for like incompetence or anything like that?
haven't FBI agents been fired and stuff? No,
It's
maybe
it's
not
very well
FBI.
known. It's nearly impossible to get fired from a government job. It's kind of like a tenure job at like most of those big universities or whatever. Like once you get into the system and you know all the right people and you have all the right connections, it's nearly impossible to lose your job, to get fired. And
But you can
so
get voted out, right?
not really. I mean, that's the thing. Like once you get in, you basically have to get voted in, and like I said, depending on the office, a lot of like government servant jobs, you don't get vote. Those don't depend on
You're
votes.
not voted. Yeah,
They
yeah.
just like it's a lot of nepotism and like
Yeah.
buddies you went to high school with and connections and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, everyone knows this, by the way. Like everyone who's been in both sectors knows this. This is why they always say like if you can't make it in the private sector, just go get a government job because in the private sector they expect results, and you can get, not only will you get fired, they will find the slightest offense. Like if you just slow down their profit for one quarter, that they'll put you on review, and then the next time you're fired or whatever.
And I guess the
So
public sector basically has guaranteed income because
So
it's
that's
tax
why
free.
you get such low quality out of government jobs, because they don't fear for their job. They basically see it as a vacation where they just hang out and push buttons all day and stuff like that. And so they don't care about, like quality or, production or efficiency or anything like that. And so that's why like I said, there's no competition. They're just worlds apart. And so but
Yeah.
these are things you would have to learn by doing it. So you have to go and see these things happen. Then you're like, oh, this is the stuff they don't tell you on TV or during their campaign speeches or whatever. All they do is promise you hope and change, and they'll make everything better. Just vote for them. And so that's why I'm so extremely right wing politically, because I'm so right wing that like your typical like Andrew Wilson's or whatever and stuff like that. I view those people as like left wing people. They're just so bootlicking part of the
Isn't that
uniparty.
isn't that what like Trump is doing though? Isn't he like I'm pretty sure the three richest people in America were all at his inauguration.
Oh
And
yeah,
so
billionaires.
isn't he kind of doing the same thing?
The exact same thing all the people who he said he was fighting against were doing. Like
Yeah, so
all those
like you're
corrupt Clintons and the
you're
Biden
on
and
the
Obamas.
you're on the right wing, but they're doing the same thing. So what makes the right wing different?
It's okay when we do it. That's the old slogan for the political parties. Whenever they accuse the other party of doing something evil, the next term when they're in power, they'll do the exact same thing, and then they'll just say it's okay when we do it. So, anyways, yeah, exactly. You just made that point. That's exactly what happens. And again, that's why I said it doesn't matter which one you vote for. You're getting left wing or center left wing. That's your choices. Either bigger government or super fast bigger government. Which one do
I
you want?
mean, I guess you could say the people getting deported right now would say it matters who you vote for, but I guess it
Well,
depends who you are.
don't break the law. Because we still have asylum and ways to immigrate to the country. So, uh,
No, I understand. I'm just saying, I there are sometimes like ways that certain people will be directly affected, I
oh
guess,
yeah,
by the
definitely.
government. I guess it's
If
like
you're an
putting it
illegal
in cheap.
immigrant, lots of free stuff if you vote Democrat. That's why they give you the hats while you're crossing the border. Vote Democrat. More free shit. Just come on over. Bring your family. We'll give them free shit too. Ghosty's paying for it all, so fuck her.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked into that stuff. I've heard the claims though, but
So you're not going to turn your apartment into a sanctuary city or anything like that? Is what I'm saying hearing.
um no.
Did you ever notice that when the Democrats talk about sanctuary cities and stuff like that, it's never their house that they're volunteering. It's like someone else's
Well,
property or whatever.
I haven't seen one. I live in the city. I guess maybe it's not like a big immigration
They
city.
usually like commandeer like a
Kind
hotel
of
or
is,
something like
but
that. Which
I
last time I checked are privately owned. So if you owned a hotel and the government said, we're gonna take your hotel and give it to a bunch of illegal immigrants, would you be cool with that?
um uh, probably not just like
Yeah, since
on
that's
that
like your
basis.
income and that's how you feed your family and stuff. So
Yeah, I don't know because I don't, again, like I haven't looked into it. I've heard these claims. I've also heard them refuted though. Is that the word? Disputed? Whatever.
yeah,
Or like
refute it or
yeah,
dispute.
refuted. That that's not actually what they were doing, or it was like a temporary housing or something. I don't again, like I don't know, but if they're literally just like paying for illegal immigrants just flat out, which seems like pretty unbelievable to
Giving
me, but
them like cell
if
phones and
they
gift
are
cards and stuff.
doing that, like obviously I would be against.
Where do you think
But
that money comes from, Ghosty? Is it are they working on a farm and making profit that
taxes,
way?
I just really don't know how common it actually is. I feel like a lot of this is probably blown out of proportion. I
It's
could be
just another
wrong.
day for them. They don't sweat it one bit. They're just like they just have a little sheet on their desk and it says, "Yep, here's the $1 billion we're taking from our citizens
I
today."
mean, what is the incentive for Democrats to do
More
that? Like,
votes so that they can go on camera and
but
say, "We care about people."
illegal immigrants can't vote though.
No, no, no. The Democrats, they can go on TV and say, "See, we care about people." Those nasty Republicans hate people. They want to. They're racist. They don't want any foreigners coming to our country. But we
I
love
feel like you
people.
could do that by just, you know, changing the immigration system, not by like paying. But I feel like that's just like not cost effective. I don't know. I don't know if I don't think that's like a big enough incentive for them.
See, now you're starting to sound more right wing here. I told you,
No,
eventually I get you.
I don't believe I personally can't see that actually happening. Like I feel like it's probably not happening as often as people are saying it is, but I could be wrong.
Well, you can always research things to find out if you really want to know the answer. But like I said, I lived through it, so I can tell you firsthand. I've been in those board meetings where they decide budgets and where the money comes from and where it goes to. And so I know exactly how the money's getting spent and who decides it and why. And so that's why I was like, oh, this is neat. Because I was like, and here all my life, I always thought there was some good and intelligent people somewhere in the government, like keeping a check on things and making sure some of the money is well spent. But no, it's just a lot of, nepotism and stuff like that. It's like,
Mm,
I got to do a favor to get my kid the position of senator, so I'm going to approve this budget for you so that you can get
yeah.
reelected to your office and blah 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 blah. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
none of that money gets spent. No roads are built or anything like that. It just
Or
says the budget was passed.
my son works in this industry, so I'm gonna put a bunch of funding this way that's gonna like benefit my family directly or
Exactly.
something like that.
That
Yeah.
that's why it's called insider trading, because you're using your government position to actually affect the free market, which should not have any interference whatsoever from the government, because then it's not fair. Because if
Yeah.
the government gives a unfair advantage to a company like Tesla or SpaceX, for example,
Which probably
why is
doesn't
that
need it.
fair? Like, what if Ghosty had her own little electric car company and a spaceship company, and she worked hard all her life to make an honest, good product, but then all of a sudden her competitor got in bed with Trump, and all of a sudden he gets Ghosty's tax money to pay for his business, and he's your competitor. So the
Hmm.
government stole your money to give your competitor your hard-earned
Yeah.
money to make
Yeah.
his business better. That's like so unfair.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're doing now. So it's like, but keep voting for these people, because voting will totally make a difference and change this system.
Yeah, no,
Trump's gonna save us.
I don't think the president's, I don't know. I understand they do affect, I don't think on a personal like daily life basis presidents affect people all that much.
They can influence your income tax rate. So
Yeah,
um
that I guess like they can
that was one of the
affect
things that the
inflation and
the the
stuff.
Trumpers were trying to brag about how Trump slightly lowered their income tax to like 30% instead of 35% or whatever, as if that really makes a difference. Again, when the government takes $20,000 from you, do you care if it changes to like, $19,000 or whatever? You're like, oh, now
Yeah.
I can buy that house, because thanks for letting me keep $1,000 this year. But anyways, it's like, it's not going to change your life at all.
Yeah.
But anyways, also they shouldn't be able to do that. Like, since when does the president just get to decide that, okay, this year you're going to pay 60% taxes or whatever? It's like, what? Like,
So
why do you have that much power, and
how do
when
you
did we
think
even
that
give you that authority?
how do you think that ultimately should be decided? Do you think people should be able to vote on legislation as well, or
I
should
think
that still?
taxation is theft. So it's a non-starter for me. How
Well,
much income tax did Americans pay before the Civil War?
I'm assuming zero.
0%. And Lincoln, by the way, made an emergency measure to pay for the war and reassured the people that it was only going to be used during war times, and it would only be taxing the rich. Only rich people would have to pay tax. The middle income and the poor people would not pay income tax. And then shortly later, Woodrow Wilson put it into the Constitution through an amendment and said, this is now federal law that all citizens have to pay income tax. And all you retards thought we were only going to tax the rich, but joke's on you. Everyone pays income tax as long as you're a U.S. citizen. And it's not temporary, it's forever. You will pay income
Yeah.
tax until the,
So
the sun dies.
yeah, I just like did a quick Google search, and the first thing that comes up, it says the personal income tax was imposed by Congress to raise revenue for the Civil War, and then Congress repealed the tax in 1872, but the idea was brought back in the 16th Amendment that established Congress's right to impose a federal
Yep.
income tax. So it was supposed to be just to raise money for the war, and then they were like, "Yeah, let's add this in the Constitution and make it
Yeah, they're
an
like,
amendment."
whoa, people will just give us money. Holy cow, let's just keep taking money from them, and they'll
Yeah,
probably keep voting
exactly.
for us.
Wow.
So, anyways, like I said, the more you learn about history and stuff like that, the more disgusted you become, because you're like, wait a minute, like, wasn't the whole point of the creation of this country was because we were like getting taxed too much, and we were like, fuck you, here's your tea. We're going to throw it to the bottom of the ocean, sit and spin British crown. And now we're paying way more than a tea tax. We're giving the government half of our income, and we're just like, oh yeah, that's fine. Well, I mean, I don't see any problem with that. You're like, that's like half of your grocery money just disappears into the government, and no one has a problem with this. Everyone's like, yeah, that, well, we got to have roads and
It
hospitals and
makes
shit.
me so mad too. Every 4 years, the election cycle, how much money goes into the elections alone. and every 4 years, like all that money being used for these campaigns, like I understand we
Yep.
have to have elections, but it, oh my God, if we could use that money for something else or even half of it
Do,
for our country, like
do you know what my favorite box on the income tax return form is?
which one?
The one where it asks you, would you like to donate extra money to
Oh,
the presidential campaign? Because we're already taking half your shit. Would you like to just give us a tip on
they
top of
gotta
that?
try. They gotta try.
And I'm like, let me think about that one. And as I'm like planning the revolution, I'm like, sure, I'll give you something. I'll personally deliver it. So anyway, but anyway, no, I don't seriously, encourage revolts, but uh, for those that do want to peacefully start their own little communities, I do take that serious. I don't know if you ever heard my spiel about starting conservataria within the United States. It would basically be like a merge between like the Amish community and like the Free
Mhm.
State Project, where like people actually care about the quality of their life and saving this country and helping good and intelligent people prosper. And
So like
so
a self-governed community kind of that's separate.
and you're basically like removing yourself from the system as much as humanly possible, because like the more you support the system, obviously the more they're going to take from you. They're never going to stop taking from you if you just keep giving them more money and stuff. And so there are ways you can get creative and just like figure out how to like pay less taxes and things, and not just dump truckloads of money into the government. And so that are legal. They're not unethical or anything like that. But uh, you always hear about, of course, rich people know all these tips and tricks, because that's one of the ways they stay super rich is they have these like super wealthy lawyers that find all these little loopholes and
Yeah.
tricks and tips that save them even more money, as if they even need to save money. I mean, these are like billionaires and stuff like that. So like they don't care if they save another $200,000 or whatever. They're like, whatever. That's just that's my grocery money for this week. And so anyways, but again, peaceful protesting, like the Amish are basically the most independent group in the United States of America.
What
They
about
don't ever even vote. They don't register for anything. They don't
what about
like
Native Americans? I feel
well,
like they're pretty
they're
they have their
technically
own.
still a sovereign
Yeah.
nation,
Like
so that's different.
they have
I'm
their
talking about
parties
actual
and
U.S. citizens. Like, if you want to actually be a
well, they
U.S.
are
citizen,
Native Americans are US citizens. They're just
not, I don't think technically they are. I think they're still sovereign members of their own nation. I don't know all the exact details of it, but obviously you're not a Native American, so that's not an option. You can't just choose to be a Native American.
well,
So
yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, you were just saying I think that the
you can
Amish.
voluntarily choose to start your own little Amish community where you just basically withdraw from completely funding the
Yeah.
government and supporting it. By the way, like there's a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier. Like when you go vote, you're basically encouraging the system. You're telling the system it's working and that they don't need to change anything, because you got to vote and you expressed your vote. And so now you fully support the government that you have now. And so, again, see, this is how they use that psychological trick on you. They make you feel like, see, this is your country that you're fighting for. So, you know, do everything you can to help support it. And so that's what I love about the Amish. Like I said, they don't vote in anything. They don't vote for like mayor or judge or anything. They don't ever register for like select a service, or they don't do anything that is government related, because they basically consider themselves their own government.
Well, and
But
they probably don't pay. They might pay income tax on their properties, but
you can't get away from property tax.
they
That's the
work for themselves, so they're not like
exactly.
working jobs
So they
in.
don't have income tax
Yeah,
in
they're
a
not
lot of
paying
situations.
income tax. They don't have like bills because they have no
And they don't pay
electricity.
sales taxes because they barter with each
They
other
yeah,
basically.
they
So
just trade with each other
they
and
don't have
stuff.
to like
Yeah.
register their business or anything like that.
I'm in Philly, so I'm only 45 minutes from Lancaster. I've been there lots of times, and I see all the horse and buggies and
Yeah. But they have like awesome furniture and they're great
yeah.
cooks and stuff. They have like the best dishes and everything. But anyways, I give people an example because they always ask me if I'm just like, dreaming of a fairy tale land that will never exist or something. But it's very possible to pull off, but it just requires serious dedication and effort, like
Yeah.
people who actually want freedom and liberty and care about, and I'm not anti-American. I just
Hmm.
hate the government. The government stinks. But I love the country and the people and the culture. I just
Yeah.
don't like the government. And so,
I
and
think
I don't want to sound like some like anti-government kook that, I'm not gonna like bomb a building or anything like that.
no, no, no.
That's
Yeah.
not what I'm about. That's why I said I would peacefully protest into my own little community and just try to withdraw from this vile, corrupt government.
That's one of
And
my main issues with the government, in my opinion, is because I'm like a I don't know, I'm kind of like a hippie person. I like nature and
me
camping
too.
and all that stuff. And I personally think it's a violation of human rights to not give us the option to want to be a part of the society or live off the land ourselves totally separate. But
Yeah, like when did homesteading fall out of fashion? Like that's
it's
one thing I want to bring
illegal.
back.
It's illegal to live off of your own energy, like create your own energy sources. There are some states I think that have loopholes to get around it.
There's some states that won't even let you collect rainwater. It's like it's so
Yeah, if it
batshit
like
insane at this
there are
point.
people who have made their own like windmills and their own energy
Yeah,
sources and stuff, and they've been put in jail because they're like, I refuse to take this down. And
exactly.
you can't just like go out in the woods and just pick it's all like national owned or federal owned land or state owned land, like there's nothing. And I think that's like fucked up. You're going to force people to live in this society that like you
Exactly.
own, work by, play by your rules, and you have no option.
I think we should have an opt-in, opt-out society where, like, if you want to be a part of the military industrial complex, then you can go, be part of the crony capitalist system or whatever, and be in bed with politicians or whatever. But I think we should have an option where if you just want to be like an off-grid homesteader and live your self-sufficient life where you grow most of your own food and you just barter with your neighbors and stuff like that, that the
Yeah.
government shouldn't intervene at all. I mean,
No,
all
I
they should
agree.
do is just enforce the rule of law to make sure we don't kill each other or steal each other's shit or whatever. But
Right.
that's why I'm a conservatarian, because a lot of people accuse me of sounding like an anarchist. They always say, "Oh, you just want to get rid of the whole government and you don't want
Hmm.
any laws or any government." I'm saying no, that's not what a libertarian is. Libertarians want government. We just want a very, very, very small, unintrusive government that just like
Yeah.
supports its citizens and protects it, and that's it. They don't like hassle them or oppress them or harass them with regulations and fees and taxes. And
Yeah, because ideally, all a government really should be is a kind of collective organization of a mass of people so that people can live civilly, I guess. Like, it
exactly.
really shouldn't be anything other than that, but it's kind of turned into a corporation, I guess, in a way. And,
So it shouldn't be like $1 trillion monster that just like bombs brown people in the Middle East, is what you're saying.
yeah, probably not.
But we're so good at that. I mean, why stop us? I mean,
Oh, yeah,
what else are we good at?
if we're good at anything, assassination attempts or successes of other countries is
Yeah,
definitely.
fucking up other people's countries because we haven't fucked up our country enough. We're like, oh, let's just go fuck up everyone else's country while we're at it too. So there's your tax dollars hard at work. But anyways, so again, I am opting out mentally, physically, spiritually. And so you always, I don't know if you've heard my old stuff, but I'm always talking about my bunker in the woods. And so that's where I'm starting Conservataria. And so I am the emperor,
Nice.
and you're welcome to come visit anytime and check it out and see if it floats your boat. But in the meantime, we can just kind of shoot the shit, chew the fat, whatever,
Okay.
here and talk politics and stuff. Do you want to keep going for a while, or are you getting kind of burned out on this version of chat? Or
Um, I'm. I think this is a probably a good place to end the conversation, unless you had something else you wanted to.
I mean,
So
I've got about 30 minutes left in me. If you have another little topic you want to throw in there real quick, but
yeah,
like I said, my voice hasn't fully recovered yet because
yeah.
the kung flu. So which we're not allowed to talk about on YouTube, by the way. We can't ever say the V word, and
The
so
what?
the jibby jab. When you take a
Vaccine?
syringe and you push medicine into your body,
You can't say
the V
vaccine?
word is you can't say on YouTube because my channel got a strike on it because I was spreading disinformation simply by talking about it. I didn't say it was good or bad. I just
Wow.
said, why aren't we allowed to talk about this thing? And my channel got a strike for it. So just
That's weird.
heads up.
I've had people, I had one person, I guess, come on and say a bunch of crazy shit on my
Well,
channel,
you
and
flew under the radar that day because
yeah,
I
I
only
guess I
have like
did.
100 subs on my channel, and I got
They were
the
like advising people to like pour urine on themselves and drink
well,
bleach
just to
basically and shit.
avoid unpleasantries on your channel, I'll tell
Yeah.
you right now, I was warned that for spreading disinformation, I got a strike on my channel because I was talking about it. I didn't even
Yeah.
say, you have to do this or you should do that. I just said,
Yes, we're not
why aren't we
advising
allowed to
anybody
talk about the
anything.
thing? And so, anyways, that's a whole nother fun topic I'd love to get into. Speaking in code, we can talk about how. Do you know who Winnie the Pooh is?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know who that's a meme of?
No.
It's the current president of China. His name is
Okay.
Xi,
Okay.
and his loyal citizens have made a meme out of him, and they call him Winnie the Pooh just to make fun of him.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
And he forbid them from posting those memes in
Yes.
his country, which made it even a bigger meme. So that now he is officially Winnie the Pooh. So, anyways, everyone knows, including what's that comedian's name? Who does the Daily Show? What's that guy's name? The
I
old
don't
Daily
know.
Show, not
I don't
John
know.
Stewart. John Stewart.
Okay. Yeah.
So John Stewart was on Colbert's talk show one night, and they were talking about the topic we can't speak of. And he said, "Is it such a hard, idea to believe that this thing came from the laboratory in which has the name of the thing that we all got?" And he was like, "It seems like that's a pretty logical conclusion that that's where it came from because that's where all the original sources started coming from." But you remember back in the pandemic days, there was a
Mhm.
complete shutdown. Like they would completely delete your channel if you even mentioned that word. And it's hilarious because now, all these years after, everyone thinks that we're free to talk about it again, which we're not, because I can show you the strike on my channel that proves that
Yeah,
the
I personally have talked about it and I haven't had an issue, but I also don't want to risk it. So
I'm just telling you right now, don't say the V word and don't say that it's either good or bad for your health because that will get the thought police showing up on your channel. So, anyways, on my channel we can talk about it because I'll use all the code words and then I don't care. I'll risk another strike on my channel because that's what my channel was for. It was to figure out who we're not allowed to make fun of. So, anyways, if you want to know who's in charge, you just find out who you're not allowed to make fun of. It's a very
true.
wise old saying.
I think
But
that one.
anyways, yeah, we'll keep your channel nice and clean, so I won't use any of the naughty words or TOS bad stuff. So,
Yeah, I haven't like worried about it too much, but
but
yeah,
we'll
I
talk
like
about clean subjects, safe subjects, like how we love our government and trust it always because it's always working in our best interest,
yeah,
and
does
how
that help my
socialism gets us free shit.
does
That's
that
why
help my
we love
YouTube
socialism.
algorithm?
Yeah. So, anyways, I have my topics that I kind of prefer, and so we'll just kind of swing back and forth from the stuff you like and the stuff I like, and then we'll see kind of how we like going about it. But anyways,
Yeah, and if there's like ever an interesting video that you think we should cover or something, you can
totally,
send it to me and
yeah, we can
yeah.
even present right here in StreamYard. I don't know if you know how to click
Yeah,
that button.
yeah.
There's like a little screen where you can
Yeah.
like review other people's content and then comment on it. I love doing that stuff because it saves you all the hard work of having to sit through hours of their
Exactly.
stuff, and you can just
Reactionary
get to
content.
the meaty parts and be like, oh yeah, let's talk about that. So
No, I think that's cool
yeah,
too.
that's the whole intent of this show. Hopefully it will work out for our audiences. And like I said, I just get kind of bored, with the old stuff. I'm done with like panel versus drama and stuff like that. I don't do debates anymore either, because that's fizzled out and there's really no one left to debate. So I
Yeah.
might show up every once in a while. Like if you're on a panel or something, I might jump in, just share my 2 cents on something. But I really don't frequent channels much
I
anymore.
yeah, I recent over the past like 2 weeks, I for some reason I was like addicted to it almost like going on panels, and
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
it was like really fun. And then there was just some one day that hit me and I was like, I can't do this right now. Like I can't even listen to it right now. Like
Yeah,
I couldn't watch any like debates, any panels. It was just like it was just getting to me for some reason. I was like, I cannot deal with
you gotta
uh
take breaks every once in a while. You can't do
yeah.
it like 24/7, or it'll burn
Yeah,
you out really fast. So,
definitely.
and I used to like angrily debate, for like decades and stuff. I used to be
Mhm.
like all over Discord when before they started perma banning me, and all over like Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that, and then most recently YouTube. I was kind of seeing if YouTube had like an active kind of community, but it's more drama here than anything else, and that's where
Yeah.
I get out of that stuff real fast. So,
Yeah.
but if there's interesting topics, I might jump in every once in a while. But this is kind of my reduction of YouTube, because if you look at a lot of my old content, I was just all over the place, like on everyone's channel and getting into all kinds of nonsense. But now I've whittled it down to who I actually want to talk to. So I chose you. Congratulations, Ghosty.
Oh, I feel honored.
But anyways, I feel like we can vibe. That's what I got from you. Is like every time I talk to you, even though we disagree on a whole bunch of stuff, like I don't want to punch you in the face while we're talking. So I'm like,
Yeah,
I
and
like this person. I'll
it's
talk to this
hard
person.
finding like reasonable people, especially on the internet, to like
Yeah,
have these discussions with, especially like good faith people and people
totally.
who actually want to have real conversations and
Yep.
stuff. Um,
And I think
so
you're a very genuine person. So that's the people I kind of, a magnet towards, because disingenuous people make me furious. That's when I start
yeah,
all the name calling and start foaming at the mouth and stuff. And so
yeah.
I'm like, I'm
When it's
trying to
all
be
for
more
the
calm these
optics
days.
and they're yeah. No,
So,
I get a genuine vibe from you as well. So I
but
think,
I do want to keep it spicy. So we're not going to just sit here and braid each other's hair every day. So, I'm going
of
to like
course,
hurt your feelings every once in a while. So,
that's
but
fine. I hope I hurt yours too.
good, bring it. I'm a big
Yeah,
boy.
I think this will be fun. We can come up with some controversial topics and
Word.
find some things we
And we
disagree
might even
on.
bring like an extra third wheel on every once in a while if it just gets so dry and boring, because we already know everything we're going to say to each other every
Yeah,
day. So
we could always like open up the panel after like the first
just to
hour
just to
or
make it
whatever.
extra
At
spicy,
the
but
end, yeah, we'll see. We'll play it
but you know how
by ear.
quickly those things turn into clusterfucks. So you got to be
Yeah,
real
I
careful
know.
about how many people you bring on and who you're
Yeah,
bringing
yeah.
on. So
My channel's pretty small, so usually
it'll get bigger. I'm here now.
it's
It's going to
pretty.
explode. You have my one viewer. I always tell everybody that when I come on, because I got 100 subs, but I didn't want to take YouTube too serious, because then it starts feeling like a job.
Mhm.
And so in order to make it like good quality, you kind of really have to work at it, or hire a
Yeah.
producer or something.
Yep.
So I don't have anyone producing for me, so I have to do all the work myself. So,
Yeah.
but I'm mostly busy with my bunker in the woods, so that's why my YouTube quality is so low, because I just phone the stuff in every once in a while. So I was like,
Oh, okay.
so I'll give it one more go, and that's why I said we'll do this little show and see how well it goes. So we'll see.
Okay, cool.
All right. Well, I had fun. Anytime you know how to get a hold of me, so just holler at me and say, let's do it. Just give me like an hour or two heads up, and I'll try to squeeze you in with whatever I'm doing that day or something. So
Yeah, no, we'll talk and plan for something.
sweet.
All
All
right.
right, everybody. That was the pilot episode of Fi and Ghosty in the morning. And so we're just gonna have a
Wait,
little.
what are you calling it?
Haven't you ever seen Community, the
No,
TV show?
no.
Oh, you need to go watch that. That's a good TV show.
I call it across the aisle conversations. I thought that I was impressed with that
It's
title.
a pop culture reference to. There's this TV show called Community, and there are these two college buddies that pretend they're on a talk show, and they just talk
Oh,
to the couch, even though there's no camera there or whatever, and they
okay.
pretend like they're doing like a morning, mainstream talk show, like Regis Philbin type quality stuff.
I get
And
it. Yeah.
so
That's us.
it's
That's
called
exactly
Troy and
what we are.
Abed in the morning. And so anyone who's watched that TV show gets my pop culture reference, but go watch it. It's a good show. But anyways, it's Fi and Gusty in the morning. This is our little, talk show where we're having um, martinis and talking about politics or whatever,
It will be
whatever
fun.
talk shows do these days. But anyways, yeah, we'll have fun. All right. Well, I had fun. Keep it real. I'll see you around.
All right.
See you
I'll
on the
see you
next one.
around. Bye.
Have a good one. Bye bye.
Bye. All right. So, that went good, I guess, for the first episode. I guess we are gonna make this a regular thing, which I think sounds like a good idea. Um, we didn't have anything planned for this. We didn't, have any topics set up in mind. So in the future, it will probably be a little bit more organized and we'll have some prepared topics and videos to cover and stuff like that. So yeah, I think I'm gonna end the stream. There's I think Sarah is hosting a debate with Flow State tonight that looks interesting. So I'll probably tune into that and maybe jump on the panel if there's a panel afterwards for that too. So please like the video, everybody, and all that jazz. I'll catch you next time. Peace.